We're going to spend the day trying to avoid safety accidents or incidents. But sometimes these things do happen. Our next session will speak about how to efficiently and properly document these incidents. And to do so, we have Jordan Coleman, who's the Corporate Health and Safety Manager of Loureiro Engineering. Please join me in welcoming Jordan Coleman.
Morning, everyone. So I was originally slated to talk about the vaccine mandate. What your thoughts are on that, I will not be discussing that today for obvious reasons. So where's the, is this the green button? Okay. There we go. So I work for Loureiro Engineering Associates, and a couple years ago, I tried to take a more holistic approach to how we, because we were doing our safety inspections, observations, but we didn't have a system to really kind of start putting that all together, managing the trends, what are our people seeing and doing in the field. And so what we came up with was Quest, so quality, environmental, and safety tool. So why do we do it? So if you notice, the first part was quality. So the quality assurance manager of our company, Karen Harris, her and I work a lot together on a whole bunch of different stuff for our company, because quality and safety really go hand in hand. So when we were trying to think of how do we make a system to start to track all this stuff, and we're like, well, you know what? If we have a quality issue or a safety issue, the way you investigate those things are pretty much the same. So why do we not just have a system that does both? So that's what we did. So we obviously want to, not have injuries. We want to manage the unsafe conditions, the unsafe acts that our employees might be seeing out in the field. And we want to manage our processes. We have a lot of deliverables to clients, and we want to give them the absolute best product that we can. And then another thing is, if anyone's familiar with information silos, they're not a great thing. So we wanted to make a system that started to connect those information silos. If we have one division that's seeing, certain different safety observations, incidents, we want another division to know about that and see that and be able to read that. So we're kind of connecting all of our information silos and almost breaking them down. So how do we do this? So there's a lot of different stuff. I mean, you can go online and you can get, subscription services that are, pre-built kind of safety management systems, and that's great. iAuditor is one. There's a whole bunch of different ones. Some are very expensive. And we had started using a few years ago this tool called Smartsheet. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Smartsheet. It's kind of like Excel on steroids. So we looked at that and we're like, you know what? This thing, you can have an Excel sheet, but on top of it, you have a form that's online and that anyone can have access to and give us a whole bunch of information. So we're like, this is an opportunity where, now we can build our own system to suit our needs as a company. So we're Loureiro Engineering. We have, some other wholly owned subsidiaries that are, we have a union shop for construction. We have a non-union shop for construction. We have a analytical laboratory that does environmental testing. So, albeit safety is, fairly the same across all those things, but they essentially do a lot of different stuff. So we needed a system that would be able to allow all these different entities to use it and to share what they're seeing. And so we built Quest. So this is a portal that's available to every single employee in our company. It goes through, so they're able to, so they get a quick introduction, so they can see, why do we make this system, the importance of it, how to investigate an event. investigation of safety events, whether it's just an observation or whether it's an actual safety incident, it can be hard. And sometimes awkward, because you're asking a lot of different questions, and the person you're asking questions of is probably really nervous. So you want to kind of break down those walls, break down those barriers, show them how to do the investigation, what we look for, why it's a great thing to do the investigation, why we want to look for the root cause, what can we do to prevent that thing from happening again. So how does it work? So we have many different ways that you can report, or many different safety observations or incidents that you can report. So good catches and near misses. So the good catch, I'm going to really, the difference between good catch and near miss, I'm really going to highlight, because it was interesting when we originally rolled out this program. People had a big question of, well, what is the difference between a good catch and a near miss? Aren't they like almost the same thing? No one really got hurt. So that was kind of interesting to me, because I'm safety. I get the difference, but I for some reason thought that was kind of universally known, which obviously I'm always learning, so it was not. So we have good catch, near miss, spills, motor vehicle incidents, and then obviously injuries, illnesses. For the quality side, we have a quality good catch, quality near misses, and then a non-conformance. So like injury, illness, non-conformance, that's like kind of the same thing for that. I'm not going to go a whole bunch into the quality side, because this is a safety and health conference, but so this little form right here, which it's impossible for you guys to read on the screen, but you'll have it in the paper there. So that has like a kind of a brief description of what each of those things are. So what is a good catch, what is a near miss, etc. So an employee will be able to just provide it through that form. So what is a good catch? And so how I really like to explain it is, a good catch, I put up here, recognition of an event or circumstance that had the potential to cause property damage or injury, but did not occur thanks to some proactive approach to it. So if you're walking across a construction site and you see a board in the ground and a nail poking up, so you didn't step on the board, you just saw a potentially unsafe condition. And you pick up that board, you bend the nails over, you throw it in the dumpster. That's a good catch. Pretty simple. It is a proactive approach, and that is what we consider our leading indicators. So what's a near miss then? So take that same board and step on it. And maybe you just bent that nail over. Maybe that nail came through your work boot and in between your toes, and you're like grabbing it with your toes. It's happened to me before. That's a near miss. I didn't get hurt, but if I stepped like an inch to the left or an inch to the right, now I got a nail on my foot. So those are the two differences. When we're looking at this system, we want the majority of our observations to be good catches, because that's how we prevent injuries ultimately. We want our employees to be so engaged in their work site and what they're doing that all of a sudden we don't start seeing the injuries, or we start to really, really lessen them. So that's the whole purpose of this quest. Like, the quest is a database, but it's not about the database. This just helps us track trends. The real purpose of a program like this, almost a behavioral program like this, is to get people to start looking at their area around them, like 360 awareness. Like, I don't know if anyone's familiar with like Heinrich's pyramid or Bird's pyramid. It's, for so many unsafe conditions, you'll have, like one fatality. So it's like, for 300 unsafe conditions, you'll have one fatality, or 600 unsafe conditions, you'll have one fatality. So whether those are really true or not, I don't know. I think it's different for every organization. But the fact is, until you start really looking at this data, you're not going to know how your organization is and what you guys are seeing. So the information that we collect from our people, what I'm going to show you in some of the later slides is actually version 2.0 of our Quest. So we rolled this thing out in the beginning of 2021, and we learned a lot of things from it. We learned kind of our failures in the system and what we could definitely improve upon. So we took those lessons and we came up with version 2.0, which is what I'm going to show you. But the same information is still there. So the date of the observation or the event, who the client is, the town, state, project name, project number. That's so we can kind of start to sort this stuff. So if we have a client X and client Y, and our leadership team goes, hey, how many observations, or what are we seeing out at client X? So what do our employees, what can we do as a company to maybe help out those employees? So we can now sort by client, by all that stuff, even by project number. So if we have a huge client, but we do a lot of different stuff for them, now we can find that out, and we can sort that data, and we can read all the observations that our employees, who are the frontline workers, those are the people that are doing the job, what they're doing or what's going on. Because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get better as an organization. So when an employee puts in an observation, we say that, keep names out of it. So, it's going to be the employee. The whole purpose of this Quest system, from what I talked about in the beginning, is, connecting these information silos. So we want people to be able to read the observations that are being reported across our companies. And I don't want to put people in the spotlight or on blast either. So we keep it anonymous, so people can still read everything that's going on, but they just see the employee saw this and that and whatever. So as they're going through that report, we then ask, okay, based on your observation, can you assign an appropriate safety topic? And that's going to be really important down the line in the presentation I'll show you. And then how often do you see that observation? Or how often do you do something? And then you can attach photos or a video or a file or whatever you want to do. Then we have like a set list of root causes. And then people call them corrective actions. We call them solutions. The solutions to whatever you're seeing. So these are different safety topics that are in our system. So if an employee puts in an observation, they can go, all right, well, you know what, I saw that board with the nail on the nail in it that was laying on the ground, and so that's maybe that's walking working surfaces, or housekeeping, or whatever. So it just depends. And if an employee doesn't see a safety topic that matches what their observation is, they can choose other, and then health and safety will look at it and go, all right, you know what, let's add a new topic. So this system, just like a health and safety plan, just like a JHA, it's a living, breathing system. So as we start to learn more, we can modify it. So where the likelihood comes into play is critical, because that is the first part of the equation for just a simple risk matrix. I don't know, if anyone's ever dealt with risk matrices, they're not a complicated thing. If you're doing a JHA on a site, some companies use risk matrices to kind of flush out what the hazards are. So we're using it for this system. And so when we ask the employee, based on this observation, how often do you see this? Or how often do you conduct what it is that you're telling us about? So from 1 to 5, I've never seen this before in the past year. Never seen it. And then it goes down to at least once in the past year, once in the past quarter, once in the last month, and then, yeah, I do this thing every single week. And so the employee is essentially becoming a risk assessor, and they don't really know it. And so when the observation comes in, we look at it, and we go, okay, we read the observation, we see the likelihood. This is where it kind of gets a little subjective, as risk matrices do. We go, all right, reasonably, if something happened with this unsafe condition or with this observation, what might happen to one of our people? We don't try to take it to the worst case scenario. I don't think that's very productive. Like all of us can walk on a sidewalk, trip, hit our heads, and die. That's not helpful, okay? So we try to be, level-headed about the number that we assign that observation. So we have here, I'll skip this. So this is our risk matrix, and you'll understand why this is important for our system, because this is how our system really tells us what our people are seeing. So basically one point is we really don't see this activity or observation ever, and even if you do, someone's really not going to get hurt. All the way up to, yeah, we see this all the time, and it's super duper dangerous, and oh my God, So that's the horrible red category. So if we see something like that come through where it's in that range of red, then we obviously do something about it very quickly. So the first version of Quest, and when we rolled it out, it didn't have a checklist. It was a out-of-the-box method for employees to tell us what they're seeing. I really didn't like checklists. I thought that they were very restrictive, and so if you hand someone a checklist, are they gonna think outside of that checklist? Are we going to start to create the narrative for our employees? So we didn't have a checklist in the first time. But what I realized is I think there is a place for checklists, but also outside the box thinking. So they can definitely coexist. And so what we developed was basically a predetermined checklist with stuff that our folks see on a regular basis. Myself and our construction safety manager, Joe Senecal, we went through all these different items, and we put aside a predetermined risk assessment for each of those. We had an understanding of the frequency that these items occur in our company, and the severity with each of those. So each question has a predetermined point system, point value. But what we tell our people is, if you go through your site and take this, what we call Quest card, and it's all on the line, it's also a hard card. We have some folks that, they still might have a flip phone or whatever, so we have a hard card that they can use. So we say, go through the site. If you say, yes, everything is hunky-dory, or it's not applicable to the site because, we're not doing excavation trenching, so, I can ignore all those questions, we say, that's great. But how many people have gone to a site and not been able to find something that we can improve upon? I'm not just talking, regulatory, albeit that's obviously what we strive for, but that's the minimum of what we strive for. We always want to be better. What can we do safer? Are there alternatives to what we're doing that might make it easier for our folks to do their job? So if we say, if you have all yeses and not applicables, well, you need to give us something. You need to find something. And if that something has to be value added. And that's the important thing. I don't want something saying, you can get a paper cut from handling this paper. That's okay. That's not really that's not what we're looking for. I had one, good catch put in the system, and the observation was it's raining, and there was no solution attached to it. I'm like, okay, that's great. It's raining. Now, had they formulated it in a different way, had they said, well, this construction site, it's raining. This site's starting to get really soupy. We're kind of, in like a kind of a valley, so, we're starting to get a lot of pooled water, pond water. So we set our guys aside. We talked about all the slips and trips, and now we set up a cordon zone where, this is where our people have to walk to avoid walking on the mud. So now we took basically a non-value add And now there's a value add to that, because now there's a thought process that went into, other than it's raining. We know it gets slippery when it rains, but tell us more. Give us more of a thought process. How are you engaging the employees? Another thing that we learned from the first version of Quest was access to be able to report stuff. That was difficult because sometimes our folks they'll be out in the field from 7 a.m. till 5:30. They'll get in the office, they'll drop off a whole bunch of stuff, and do they really want to fire up their computer, go online, and type up an observation and ship it to us? No, of course they don't, because they're freaking exhausted. I would not want to do that. So, COVID, that actually, and if going to the restaurants with the QR codes for the menus, that was like, well, shoot, why don't we have something like that? Smartsheet is a great app. It's got a great, mobile app on it also, but people don't want to download the mobile app, and I don't expect people to do that. But all the forms that we create, all the different reporting forms, so whether you just want to report a single good catch or an incident, or if you want to fill out an entire quest card, you can go through the app to do that, but that's just more of a hurdle also. And so all those forms are actually just mobile online forms. And just like our standard website, we can attach that web address to that QR code. And now we have a front and back card with 2 different QR codes. So this just says, so that first one, if you can read it, there's a Verco on it. So we have a learning management system in our company called Verco. It's a great system. It's a really stupid name. I don't know why they called it that, but that's besides the point. But anyone has ever, worked, especially the construction industry, but in the industry where, there's a lot of training and you're expected to keep your training certs, on your person at all times, and then, for the guys out there, your wallets are like, this thick with all your different training certs, and it's terrible. This is access to all the employees' training certs, from our engineering side all the way to our union guys. So they'll all have this card, and they can use their phone, snap the QR code. It's a password protected, so they can type in the password, and then boom, all their certs are right there on them. So that's good for them, because now they have all the training on them. And it's good for us, because when we go up and say, hey, have you ever had this training, to operate this piece of equipment? We can just go bloop, fire it up, and we can see. The flip side to that is our Quest. So that's an online portal, and so our people are able to report stuff straight from the field. So we're trying to break down that barrier to the reporting. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. Because again, it's tough. We're asking people to almost go above and beyond to not only help themselves out, but to help out their fellow colleagues and help out the company. Our company is an ESOP, so every single employee in our company is a part owner of the company. So that's pretty unique for for a lot of companies. Not a lot of companies are like that. And so every employee in our company has a stake in how well we do. So being able to help in any type of way to improve how we do work is only beneficial to everyone. So with all that said, and the likelihood and the severity and all the different observations, again, this is very tiny, so I apologize. So we have our Quest Safety Dashboard. So all this data rolls up into our dashboard. And so, I know you can't see it, but so we'll have total good catches. So our Quest card with all of our different checklists, those are all good catches. So we're seeing stuff, nothing's actually happened. And so those all count as good catches. So we do have minimum requirements for our employees across the company. We say, give us at least one good catch, either safety or quality, one per quarter. That is not a huge time commitment. Depending on what the observation is, that might be 5 or 10 minutes of their time once a quarter. But you roll all that time up and all those observations up, and so if we're a company of 200 people, now we have 800 data points that we can work off of. Now we can get all different trends and what are we seeing on the safety side? Where are we going? What's going on with quality? So that's how this thing helps us out. And then it goes into the standard stuff like the spills and the motor vehicle incidents and the injuries and the near misses, utility strikes, all that fun stuff. So when I talked about the risk matrix and the points, so this is where all those points come into play. So I've seen systems that you have a checklist, and the way companies track it is, for this question, whether you had, protection in the trench, those guys have answered no 20 times over the last year. I'll just make up a number. That's fine. You have a single data point, and it's a very straightforward question. But we have the outside the box part of that now. So how do we account for people giving us an observation that's not on a checklist? And so that's where the risk points come in. So every single observation on the quest card has points associated with it. Every single observation has points associated with it. And that's what we come up with. So it's fun, color-coded, but this is real time, real data. So this is, when a new thing comes in, we get notification of it, we look at it, we assign a severity, and then the points are automatically added up in the system. This is a 12-month rolling chart. So now we have a checklist, and outside-the-box thinking, and the points kind of all bringing them together. So when you see more color for a certain category, that tells us two things. We're either seeing that type of that safety topic a lot, or maybe we're seeing it a little bit, but maybe the points were like really high. So maybe it was a high-risk situation. So that's what that tells us. So now we can drill in even more on those things. And that's how we can start to see these trends. We can start to, kind of key communications. This is just a 3-year rolling chart. So that's our approach. This is how we're trying to, get better as an organization. So that's what it provides. It provides us the ability to key our weekly toolbox topics to what our folks are seeing in the field. So what we're doing right now is we're taking observations that people are straight up giving us from the field, and the next week we're saying, hey, this is what one of our employees saw, this is what their solution was, and here's some additional safe work practices that we'd like to tell you about. So it's real time, there's a week delay, but now we're connecting that information silo. So, that sounds great, and I'm a very optimistic person. There is obviously some challenges to something like this. People are hesitant to report safety issues because they think they're going to get in trouble. And it is my life's mission to make them know that they are not going to get in trouble for doing that. If we've given them the training, if we had the coaching, if we had, all the equipment, and we do all that for these guys, and one of them decides to walk across a steel eye, something, and they're purposely putting themselves in harm's way, then we talked on the accountability side. But 99% of the time, when someone gives us some information, we go, thanks. This is amazing. Thank you for sharing this. Can we talk about this a little bit? What are your ideas for this? Can we improve upon some of the solutions? There's a trust level that you can't direct someone to trust you. You cannot do that. That is something that trust is a feeling that has to be built over a long time, and that's what we're trying to do. But it's always challenging. And so it's something like this is it's a time commitment. It is a top-down commitment from the leadership team. We have full support of the leadership team on this. Every single observation that comes in is rolled up into a table every week, and the entire leadership team reviews every single observation that comes in. It's got to be a top-down approach, otherwise this will not work and it's for nothing. And that's it. I don't know if anyone had any questions about that, but I'm more than happy to answer anything. Yes?
You had mentioned that you asked the employees to report a good catch once a quarter. Do you incentivize them to do that?
Yes, I forgot to talk about it. So we definitely do. So we love incentivizing employees to do that. And our human resources department is working on a whole revamp and incentivized program. So we incentivize people to give us stuff because we want to hear from them. And so that's how I think incentive programs are awesome. Obviously you don't want to have an incentive program that minimizes reports because that's not good. So we incentivize them giving us stuff. We say, hey, if you got a good catch, give it to us. If we use it as our Quest Spotlight, you're going to get like a $25 gift card. So absolutely. Like that's I think also a huge component to making this work. It depends. Sometimes it's recognition. We had a meeting where we asked a whole group of people, how do you like to be recognized? And some people are like, yeah, I don't want to be recognized in front of the entire company. Like, I don't want that. Like, so some people don't search for that. Some people choose that over money. So it just depends on the person. Sometimes we have a conversation with, hey, what do you want? Do you want us to say, hey, nice job, and blast out the entire company? It just depends on the person. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you, everyone.